Welcome to the UCSU Election Results 2014. NUS Conference Delegate. Number of valid ballots 521. Therefore the quota is 261. Jane Horswell scored 491 votes. Reopened nominations scored 30. Jane Horswell will represent UCA students at NUS Conference 2014. UCSU Student Trustee. The number of valid ballots was 513. Quota was 257. Annabelle Giraud-Telm scored 483 votes. Reopened nominations scored 30 votes. Annabelle Giraud-Telm will serve as UCSU Trustee for 14-15. Canterbury Campus. In the election of a campus officer, the number of valid ballots received was 159. Therefore the quota is 80. Lucy Davis scored 157 votes. Ron scored 2. Lucy Davis is therefore duly elected Canterbury Campus Officer for 2014-15. Rochester Campus. Student Experience Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 137. The quota was 69. Jane Christie scored 127 votes. Ron 10 votes. Jane Christie is therefore Rochester Student Experience Officer for 2014-15. Campus Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 143. The quota was 72. Jasmine Grimshaw scored 127 votes. Reopened nomination scored 15. Jasmine Grimshaw is therefore duly elected Rochester Campus Officer for 2014-15. Epsom Campus. Student Experience Officer. The number of valid ballots was 164. The quota was 86. Amelie Rosendahl scored 158 votes. Ron scored 6 votes. Amelie Rosendahl is therefore Epsom Student Experience Officer for 2014-15. The election of International Students Officer. The number of valid ballots was 157. Quota was 79. Vil Svandiet scored 144. Ron scored 13. Vil Svandiet is therefore Epsom International Students Officer for 2014-15. The election of Campus Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 202. The quota 102. Esther Anyuanko scored 76 votes. Nate Bragg scored 40 votes. Widad Dodi Kazmar scored 85 votes. Ron scored 1. At this stage, no candidate had received quota, so the lowest scoring candidates were eliminated. This was Nate Bragg and reopened nominations, with their second preferences redistributed. When added to the first stage votes, the totals were: Esther Yoanku had 14 transferred votes, giving a total of 90. Widad Dodi Kazmar had 11 transferred votes, giving a total of 96. Therefore, Widad Dodi Kazmar is elected Epsom Campus Officer for 2014-15. The Farnham Campus Election. LGBT Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 232. The quota was 117. Rhianne Hill scored 215 votes. Reopened nominations scored 17 votes. Rhianne Hill is therefore Farnham LGBT Officer for 2014-15. In the election of Clubs and Societies Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 234. Quota was 117. Rachel Fletcher scored 216 votes. Reopened nominations scored 18 votes. Rachel Fletcher is therefore Farnham Clubs and Societies Officer for 14-15. Students with Disabilities Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 236. The quota is 119. Aira Cannon scored 221 votes. Reopened nominations scored 15 votes. Aira Cannon is Farnham Students with Disabilities Officer for 2014-15. The election of Student Experience Officer. The number of valid ballots received was 227. Quota is 76. Charlotte Lawrence scored 138. Jessica Pastor scored 80. Reopen nominations scored 9. Therefore, Charlotte Lawrence and Jessica Pastor are elected Farnham Student Experience Officers for 2014-15. The election of Campus Officer. The number of valid ballots was 271. The quota was 136. Kathleen Guinea scored 64. Jane Horswell scored 74. Joel Goldman scored 129. Ron scored 4. At this stage, no candidate had received quota, so the lowest scoring candidates were eliminated. This was reopen nominations and Kathleen Guinea, with their second preferences redistributed. And when added to the first stage votes, the totals were: Jane Horswell had 36 votes transferred, giving a total of 110 votes. Joel Goldman had 27 votes transferred, giving a total of 156 votes. Joel Goldman is therefore duly elected Farnham Campus Officer for 2014-15. The election for UCA Students Governor will be counted and announced on Monday the 17th of March. That concludes the UCSU election results for 2014. Please check back at ucasu.com for full information and the UCA Student Governor announcement on Monday.